I'll be honest, Sonic does not have good bosses. And I'm not gonna lie, this is just an issue with platformers in general. Like, I'm not gonna lie, in recent memory, there is not a single platformer aside from maybe Advent Neon that I would go back and play the bosses for. Every Mario game's bosses is very easy and very straightforward, so it's not a bad thing. It's just, with platforming games, it's like, with like solely platforming, not like action platforming, solely platforming, it's very hard to make a boss interesting and make a boss that I would also like to go back to. But you know, they're all serviceable. They're not bad. And Sonic is in this exact same boat. Like, despite how on the spectrum the series has been when it comes to its quality of games, the bosses low-key don't suffer that much. There is like one Sonic game that I genuinely would not play because of the bosses, and that's Sonic Superstars. Like the classic games, all the bosses are pretty easy. Adventure games, bosses are pretty simple. Heroes, you can mash, but it's still pretty simple. Shadow the Hedgehog, you get a gun, you shoot the bosses, their health melts. Colors bosses you can beat in like 2 hits, you know what you're doing. Unleash has Dark Gaia, and I've already spoken about Dark Gaia, but other than that, its bosses are pretty fine. Sonic 06 bosses are fine. People only ever complain about Silver, and then that's it. Every other boss is serviceable. Every other boss is fine. We are not counting the storybook games because the storybook games suck solely because that they are on the Wii and that the controls are weird. Sonic Frontiers you can mash, but it's cooler because they're supersonic. Some of those mini bosses though, yeah, let's not talk about that. Yeah, the only 2 games I'd say that have the best bosses in the series, Shadow Gens and Sonic Generations respectively, because you're not gonna sit here and tell me that Perfect Chaos was not a good boss. Egg Dragoon, fire boss. The rival fights, Silver has low-key the best boss fight in that game. I'm gonna be so for real, like I'd put that higher than any other boss in that game. And then Shadow Gens, every boss is sick. Every boss has great telegraphing, good pacing, aura, and they got a proper hard mode where not only do they have more health, not only do you have 0 rings, but the bosses also got new moves. Now, are these bosses crazy difficult? No. This isn't like going from human to Dante Must Die in Devil May Cry 4 or 5, but it's an added challenge to the point where it's like, oh, you actually have to be careful. In older Sonic games, the bosses aren't really a challenge. The challenge is more or less keeping your 1 ring. And that's not a bad thing, but at some point it's more like I'm worried about maintaining my ring than even interacting with the boss fight. Not all of them, but there's a good chunk. And Shadow Gens' bosses are not perfect. There are a couple that genuinely just play themselves. But are any of them bad? No! And while we're on this topic, can we just talk about how Silver and Mephiles got such good treatment? They really love these 06 boys, because how is it that they get the best boss fights in their respective games? In agenda piece terms, this is an upscale. Getting back to the bad bosses, there's only been a couple of times in the franchise history where everyone has agreed on that, oh yeah, this boss sucks, or these bosses suck. The first one was a Time Eater, which, being completely honest, as I said in my Dark Gaia video, that nigga is easy. He takes 4 minutes. But aside from the Time Eater, in recent times, people will hang you on a noose if you defend Sonic Superstars bosses. And I'm not gonna lie, not all of them are that bad, but holy shit. Look, I think Sonic Superstars is a perfectly solid game, but those bosses bring it down from like a 7 to a 5. Mind you, I haven't even beaten the real final boss. I beat like the Egg Samurai Shogun guy, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Because after that boss, I was so annoyed, bro. Oh my goodness gracious, that was a terrible boss. I'll be honest, the first like 2 or 3 bosses in Sonic Superstars are perfectly serviceable and fine. Then you get to the other half, and it's like, this is awful, I hate this. Fang? Bro, what level was it? What level was it? It was the boss where you're on a floating platform and you're slowly fighting Fang, and we're slowly going through this corridor and nonsense, and I'm like, bro, this shit is ass. It has terrible pacing. I can barely hit Fang. Mind you, with Sonic bosses, there's always barely any rings, but it's even harder to get the rings because you're on a floating platform. Man, it was just a bad boss, bro. It was just such a bad boss. But yeah, generally speaking, Sonic bosses are actually pretty solid. I hope we get better 3D Sonic bosses like with Shadow Gens. And honestly, with the classic Sonic games, just keep the bosses the exact same. Keep them easy, because especially after Superstars, I don't want to have another boss like that ever again. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of y'all's views. I'm sorry for the hiatus. I've been working 50-hour weeks. I'm tired, but I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace out.